And what makes me laugh at times, especially when I get comments from some of the sisters, black women, and they'll say, girl, what you doing? Your husband don't know what he doing.
I want to take it back to the beginning with you two. Do you remember the first time you met?
Come on, tell them first time we met.
You tell them, baby.
10th grade.
Wow.
10th grade, walked into the back of Mr. Torres. It was Mr. Torres, right?
That's it.
Mr. Torres English class.
What city was this at?
It was in Baltimore, Maryland, Randallstown High School.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was it right away? Was it friendship? Was it she cute, you cute? Like, how'd it go?
No.
Well, and for me, I thought like she was like an old woman in the terms of her spirit, because even back then she would call Mr. Torres Sugar. And it was as if she was his peer, because he was like, yeah, and kept on talking and adjourning this, that, and the other. And I thought she was like, almost like a woman, you know what I mean? She seemed like she had a checking account back then in 10th grade. So we clicked right away in terms of friendship, because we just were amused by one another.
That's a great word. We amuse one another. I like it.
And that's the same for you? It was like friendship right away?
It was friendship right away.
Okay, what did Sidney like let you borrow his pencils, or what were we talking about? Like,
No, he was just a really gentle spirit. He was really a nice guy at 14 years old, like just a nice guy. And whenever I would walk in class, he would go, hi, Monique. And that would just make me smile, like, hey, Jean. And it's been that all of our lives.
what's y'all signs, just out of curiosity?
I'm Sagittarius.
Libra.
Libra, balance. I'm not, what's Sagittarius?
Fire. Jump off. Get it started. Yes.
For sure. Did you guys imagine the friendship blossoming to a point now, years later, you're running a podcast together, displaying your relationship? Did you foresee that?
I mean, when we were younger, it was almost like this is my best friend. Actually, it was her and my boy Antoine. We were all in 10th grade. And Antoine, I knew him since he was in 7th grade. And she has a Michelle.
Yes.
That, you know, and it evolved to this is my sister. She only went to Randallstown for a semester, but we stayed in contact. After that, it was just like, you know, the universe saying that this is meant to be. I remember her coming up to the school to see me as I was leaving out. And I was like, what you doing up here? She was like, I came up here to see you. I was like, you ain't come up here to see me. What you come up here for? She was like, I came up here to see you. I was like, well, why you ain't called? You could have missed me. And just so happened we ran each other, hung out, the whole nine. So it was just almost like she was my homeboy before anything else. This was, that's just how it was.
When was that spark? When did that moment turn? When did you look at her no longer as just a friend?
I was like 38 years old. Yeah, from 14 to 38 years old, where we both had experienced plenty of women, you plenty of men.
It wasn't plenty.
Plenty.
It was a lot, but I don't know about plenty.
Good and plenty. You really have to, I think it was understanding what it is that you are doing, don't want. And when you realize like this person has always been tight with you as a friend, almost like entertaining that idea where you've dealt with all these other people. And when you first met them, you looked at them as being more than just friends. You jumped over the friendship,
Right.
and saw the relationship. Well, we've been through ups, downs as friendships, in the friendship as brothers and sisters. And I just saw her differently, you know, and I saw an evolved woman at that point where I hadn't seen this person before as anything other than that's my girl.
Right. What about for you? Was his energy changed, made you respond differently to him?
No, I think for me, the spark happened the night of the BET Awards party at the house. And he had come over to the house for the party, and we went out and danced on the dance floor, and just, it was nothing abnormal for us to dance and have a good time. So I was getting ready to go to Essence the next day, and I was going upstairs to take my shower. Well, it was nothing abnormal for him to see me in the shower. We were roommates, so it was nothing for him to see me naked or no uncomfortability, nothing. So we up there and we just talking and having a good time. And he says, when you come back from Essence, give me a call. So I said, okay. So he leaned in to kiss me. Normally, he kissed on the cheek. This time, it was half cheek, half lip. And it felt different.
That's what she remembers. But I remember kissing her on the cheek. Cause
if it was that close, it was by the lip.
If you say so.
Okay.
Me being who I am, I wouldn't have been that forward at that point to kiss her right there on the lips. I'd have kissed on the cheek because I wasn't going to reveal my hand that early on in the game. But if she says that's what it happened.
That's what I felt.
And it felt different when the little lip,
It felt different.
The little skin touch.
It felt different.
And she used to always say, if we're not married by the time we're 40, we need to get married. And I used to say,
I would kill your ass if I married you.
That's how I used to say.
Yeah.
So, when did you become her manager?
We were in Houston, Texas, and her brother rubbed her the wrong way for, I guess, the umpteenth time. And she said to me, I need you to be my manager. And I said, I don't want to be your manager. Let's just create shows and do things that put you in a position of power where you're not always working the lemonade stand, and create projects for other folks that look like us. And she said to me, listen, before we go into meetings, you tell me what they're going to say before they say it. That's what they end up saying. I watch you navigate inside of a room. There are things that have been said to me that once you come in, they're no longer said to me. I need you to do this for our family. So it literally felt like there was a moment in The Godfather where Michael Corleone had to go to the hospital, and he told the nurse to move his father from one room to the next. And he was standing across from Enzo the baker when the bad guys pulled up. And Enzo's hand was shaking, and Michael lit his cigarette. And he noticed that his hands weren't shaking. And in that moment, he knew he was built for that. I knew based upon my experiences I was built for that, because what it was that she told me, it was true. And I knew she needed to have somebody that was not going to be persuaded by people who were powerful but were talking incorrectly about this black woman. When the first meeting we had ever gone on, she was represented by a woman who told the whole group when they met that when she first came to California, her and her family, her husband and children, was sleeping on her floor, to prove a point about how close Monique and her were. Understood. I said, I don't remember that time in your life where that happened. Did that happen? And then she said, no. I said, then that story can never be told again, because what you can't be is the black Negro that the white woman has to save. And shortly thereafter, she was let go. Only for 14 years later, which was last year, she reached back out to tell Monique, I apologize because I was a racist too, and I didn't realize that's what I was. And I wanted to come back to let you know I love you, and I was wrong because I mishandled your career, and I wasn't strong enough and brave enough and courageous enough to speak truth to these powerful white men. And she was white herself. So that was the beginning of me being her manager at that moment.
Before you even approached him to ask him that, like was it that bad to where, like, hearing him say that, but what was going on in your head? when you approached him about working at?
It was that bad. It was that bad. It was, I wasn't being protected. And my manager at the time was my brother. And I was just finding out things that were done that were unethical, and monies that was seeming to disappear and not being had. And this was my brother that as a child, I thought he was golden. As a kid, this was the one that played jacks with me and hopscotch and went with me in the snow when we had to go to the store for our mother. This was that brother. So there were a lot of things that was happening that I kept overlooking because this was that brother. This was that brother. There were situations where it just wasn't making sense. And that final day in Houston, I watched my brother become everything we said we would never become. And I had to tell him that night, I'm done. Because that was a part of my mental illness. Even being afraid to speak up, it's your family. You don't leave your family behind. You remember where you came from. So for years, I kept dealing with that and dealing with that. And I dealt with that because I had no one to turn to. I had no one to say, I'm getting ready to make this move and I gotta make it and I'm not sure. And I remember Sidney saying to me, he said, listen, what I will never do is tell you to fire your brother. What I'll never do is tell you to walk away from your family. Because I never want to be in a position with you where you say you made the decision because of me. That's a decision you have to make on your own. Whichever way you go, I'm supportive of it. But I can't make that for you. So that night when I watched my brother become everything we said we wouldn't, I knew that I had to make a decision. So from that night to this day, there are no regrets. There's not a moment that I've said to myself, oh, what did I do? Oh, why did I? I am so proud of the decision that was made, and we made it together as husband and wife, as a team, as a family, and I've not had a better manager than I've had in my husband. And believe me, I've had what quote unquote is Hollywood's finest, and they all played the same game.
Because I'm assuming they're not going to care as much as your husband.
Well, would you?
Yeah.
Right, because what affects me affects him.
Right. He's going to be protective.
We're right there in it. And what makes me laugh at times, especially when I get comments from some of the sisters, black women, and they'll say, girl, what you doing? Your husband don't know what he doing? And I'm like, they have you that brainwashed that you don't believe that your black man can stand with you. They have you that brainwashed that you believe you gotta go get somebody white to make it work. And that's the part that's disheartening, because they've trained us so well that we don't even believe. And for every white manager and agent that I had, they all gave me the same story. We'll get him the next time. We'll get him on the next one.
After a deal, they would, or just...
Baby, listen, do you know how long I've heard that throughout my career? And I've been with the biggest, William Morris, Delshaw, Moonves, and Tanaka, The Collective.
They're attorneys.
They're attorneys, but I've been with the big ones, and they've all said the same thing every time. I don't care what the numbers were. We're going to get them next time. And I got tired of hearing the next time. So when I look to my husband and my business partner and my manager and my best friend and my homeboy and my children's daddy, all these hats, and I say, listen, I'm tired of hearing the next time. And he says, you won't have to hear it again. That's what I needed. I didn't keep needing to hear, we'll get him the next time, but you can feed your family, but I can't feed mine. Why are we waiting for the next time? Then you die and you've never got your next time.
Cindy, Monique just mentioned the disheartening of hearing like women, like I guess put question marks on why you're in the position you are as manager. Did it ever like bother you to a point, or did you just have your own core or inner peace about it?
It's one of those things where, again, there's a level of empathy that you have, because these individuals may not know anybody that's able to conduct business accordingly. Is not indicative of my story and or backstory. They don't know what I've gone through in order to be comfortable to articulate myself in a room full of individuals. Well, oftentimes Monique and I are the only black people in there, or our attorney, Ricky Anderson. And due to that fact, I can't be mad at them. I completely understand why they would say what they say. It's kind of like the first rule of sales. People don't say no because they don't want to buy. They just say no because they don't have enough information to say yes.
Right.
So the position that people take is oftentimes not because they're trying to be mean or nasty. They don't have enough information to say, I feel the same confidence in him that you have. They don't have, since we were 14 to 50, going on 52 years, to see somebody that's, ever so humbly been solid in reference to how they conduct themselves and not moved by someone who can say something that may be out of sorts, because oftentimes people are not saying it again because they're trying to be funny or messed up. They say it because they don't have enough information to say anything else. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that charge.
As you stepped into that position, did you, just to kind of like, since we're talking about it, did you have like a background that helped you with that, or did you just completely rely on character?
My background is in sales. So whether people understand it or not on a daily basis, it doesn't matter if you are a garbage man, and or it doesn't matter if you work behind the camera. We're in sales. So to literally get into a position where you know how to overcome objections, you isolate objections, you know how to close deals, you're doing nothing differently when you're going into a boardroom representing a person. In fact, you've been put in a position to pitch better. As a Libran, our demeanor can oftentimes be aloof, and I'm an observer. So oftentimes when you're quiet and you're an observer, people oftentimes think they don't get to know you. It's the reason why people question Kawhi Leonard, because he doesn't say much. He just demonstrates when he's on the floor, and he doesn't have a rah-rah type of personality. So it allows people to make their own decisions and opinions about me, which I completely understand on the left or the right why someone would say what they would say. But oftentimes when people get a chance to know me, they be like, yeah, you're a wild boy. Yeah. So.
For sure. And I think like the podcast definitely plays to that strength. Because before, you just would hear about you, but we wouldn't see you. So it was like in people's heads, this menacing figure and all black, demanding Monique to do things. And then here's a guy that's soft-spoken, you could tell he has a good temper about himself, completely different than what we assumed. So that's why I think the podcast seems to be a great thing, because it eliminated our imagination.
But here's what's so unfortunate, that we as a black community saw him as this menacing person. It's like that was the first conclusion we got to, because Monique was making different decisions. That's what's sad about us as a group of people. And I can't say all, because there's some soul sisters out there that say, hey, baby, please let your husband know we love him. And there's some brothers out there that say, let your husband know we love him. We love what he's doing.
More so than not.
More so than not. But some people started thinking that all of a sudden, at one point I was a strong, opinionated woman. Now when this man come in, oh God, he's ruling and he's running her and he's making her make these decisions. What my husband, manager, does, he'll say, Mama, what do you want to do? And I'll say, Daddy, here's what I want. And he'll say, let me go execute what you're asking for. There are no decisions made without he and I saying, hey, what do you want to do? Now I'm extremely comfortable in saying to my husband, I'm going to follow your lead. Whichever way you think the family should go, I am comfortable going that way. And I look right into the camera, because that's a problem we have now, in my humble opinion, in our marriages and relationships. We both want to stand when we pee, and we can't. One stands and one sits. And in my opinion, that's done for a reason. So I'm very comfortable in my husband saying this is the direction that I believe the family should go in.